Hi everybody, welcome to today's video. We are going to do some more RPG horror stories, and hopefully you guessed from just the amount of uploads and the fact that it's got RPG horror stories in the title. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. Our first story is going to be from user Shatora Dragon, and I like the name, and is titled Ripping the Band-Aid Off and Finally Talking About My First Table. 2 years ago in 2023, I was asked to lead my first D&D table. We played over Roll20 and Discord. This was not an in-person table. A week after my birthday, when I guess it occurred. With it now being 2 years out from that, I don't care if my former DM sees me talking about it on my main account. I don't blame you. Who by the way, who like knows what their, I don't know what my friends' accounts are on Reddit, if I'm being honest. I don't have anything I can really stalk, but I know some of them know mine, so I mean, I guess peruse at your own risk or whatever. But back to our story. In 2022, ex-DM botched my birthday one-shot, what was supposed to be a simple one. The party was the Empress's best people, and on my order, we were sent to deal with the plot of the one-shot to solve the puzzle, get clues, and fight the BBEG. We stalled at solve the puzzle. As his wife and his pet player, assuming DM's wife, took to dicking around in the lab with elongated turns. As DM's wife, who was not hiding she wasn't fond of this one shot, she voted for the other option, wandered away from the group to skeet shoot before even getting the lab, and not intending to join us at all till yelled at to get back with the group. Whereupon, any time she was called inside the lab, she dicked around in her room doing nothing and just being handed the key she needed. The worst, however, was his pet player taking a 1 hour and 40-minute long turn, just playing with her wild magic, wasting her spell slots, and the effects that they ended up causing, all the while looking for dirt to plant her magic beans in. Okay, I think it's cool that the DM put together a birthday one-shot for OP here, for their players. It sounds like the DM, though, needs to be keeping all of these players here on track. Sometimes you, as a DM, need to do this, unfortunately. This table just might also be one that allows its players to go off on tangents like this. But given the fact that OP is very annoyed about this, and they have not noted that tangents are commonplace, it sounds like the DM might need to rein these players in a little bit. Back to our story, though. Yes, I did speak up at the 30-minute mark, an above average turn length for our group, asking if I heard any of what she was doing. I was told I didn't hear anything despite a passive 20 perception, because I was on the other side of the map. It was a small map. I was like 3 rooms down. Yes, XDM did at first tell pet player that there was no dirt. Pet player threw a fit, and like always got her way. She was given a room with dirt, and she proceeded to use her beans. I furiously texted the DM to stop her turn, and texting apologies to my guest at the table who was looking forward to the BBEG fight, a Draco-Lich. Pet player was then killed by the wild dogs her magic beans ended up summoning, and XDM finally saw how much time he wasted with her, so everything that happened with pet player was then retconned to never have happened as he moved on to my guest to take his turn. I'm going to jump right back to a different player, as we only needed to grab our key out of a bloody cauldron, and we didn't mess around with anything else in the room. So what I'm a little confused on is we're going to let pet player here dick around, but then once it all goes to hell, we retcon it. I say no, not at all. Pet player made their bed and they get to sleep in it. This DM needs to be having these players take and make quicker turns. The only time I have had a player turn end up being close to about an hour, and that was for their backstory, and during that time frame, as they were kind of the sole focus, other players were actively jumping in and helping, or being like off to the side helping out with bits and pieces with the story as it was going. I don't know why this DM's letting people go off on tangents for over an hour here, just doing whatever the fuck they want, especially for a one-shot. It's just wild to me. Back to our story, though, we never got to the fight. It was almost 1 a.m. Eastern, but XDM still wanted the moment in the lab with the last of the researchers who made the BBEG. It was also a setup to force me to burn my 9th level spell slot, bringing them back from the dead. My birthday one-shot ended with a cliffhanger to fight the BBEG next year, which kind of sucks. Pet player had just gotten her own birthday one-shot in January that had its BBEG fight and wrap-up. Our main and side game were both heavy in her arcs at the time, when I rightly complained about how unfair this was. I was told it was my fault that wife and player got so out of line that as their boss, because they're the empress, I should have been more firm. I was also told to be the bigger person with pet player as she was the table's baby at 18 years old. That's an old ass baby. And I was the oldest at the table, so birthday doesn't mean as much to me. Kind of fucked up. And pet player had a bad home life. So did I at the time. So we can't be mean to her. One, I'm going to make the assumption here that the person who told them this, him, I don't know their gender, so I apologize. Them, this was the DM. So I'm going to say DM is out of line here. DM should be keeping the players in line, not the quote boss PC. The player was taking a ton of time to do things. The DM needs to keep the player in line. The DM sets the tempo. The DM is the game's herald. The DM is also in charge. Also, being the baby of the table at 18 years old is no excuse to be immature and inconsiderate of others. At 18, while you are not yet wise because you've not gone through maybe a ton in life, you are an adult legally speaking, and you should at the very least know common decency, know how to share, and how to be respectful to your fellow players. Also, just because you're the oldest of the group does not mean a birthday should mean less to you. This DM's a bit of a dick. I should have left, but I didn't. I wasn't going to throw away a 7-year friendship. Oh, damn. Cut to December 2022, I bring up with months of warning. I would like to try DMing for my birthday in March. I have an idea in mind, and if that was okay with everybody. If even one of them said no, I would have let XDM try and have a redemption arc with my one-shot again. Everyone was keen on the idea, or at least didn't say no. So I write up the rules and the setting overview doc and start writing the one-shot. I wrote the overview because I was using the setting of the show Ruby. Fun show for those of you who've seen it. It used to be on Rooster Teeth, I think it was. It was like a weird anime, but it wasn't anime because it was made in America. It's an adult cartoon, I guess you can call it. Back though to our story, and there would be things from canon their PCs would know, as well as my table's no-nos, namely playing other games while we are playing. Something DM's wife has started to do without punishment from her husband. She just played stupid PCs who also weren't paying attention. She literally cared more about farming in Fallout 76 than paying attention to a boss fight. She was the bard and should have been the main healer. I'm going to say this. One of my biggest pet peeves when I'm DMing a game virtually especially, is someone is very clearly playing something else, be it a game or they're on YouTube or some shit. If you're going to show up to play a game, please focus on the game. If you would rather farm Fallout 76 or whatever the fuck else, then please do that and don't show up to the table. Because me having to remind you what is happening is going to drive me fucking nuts. To me, it's disrespectful to not only myself, but also the fellow players that are paying attention and actively participating in the game when we have to stop and remind you of what was going on. Thankfully, it's not something I have to deal with very often, because otherwise I'd lose my fucking shit. To get us back on track though, I am proud of OP for trying out DMing. I think everyone should if they're interested, and even if you're not, you should consider it as an idea. It puts a lot of perspective to go from player to DM. You don't necessarily realize everything that goes into making a session work or a one-shot work, and I feel like getting to see on, that side of the screen, that side of the table, I think is a really good point of view for everybody to have. I think you'll find, I'm assuming everybody is respectful of everybody's time, but you end up, I find, respecting somebody's time even more, your DM's time more, because you get to see the work that they put in. I also am tooting my own horn. I tend to be the forever DM at our table. I occasionally get to be a player, but usually I'm DMing. Other than that, I like the homebrew setting that that OP's coming up with, because Ruby's really cool. If you've ever seen the show, it's a kind of like a shonen anime, kind of, also kind of not a shonen anime. And it's cool that they're taking this and I assume transferring it into like a 5e-esque system. I'd be really interested to see how they make that work. Continuing the story though. The one shot is for level 5. Somehow pet player's health is 16 points. Which is really low for level 5. To this day, I still do not fully know how she supposedly legitimately rolled that health pool. The XDM claims it was done live on a call with him. I know every monster I have planned will one-shot her. I am begging her to please fix her HP. She's laughing because it's funny. I even offer for everyone to take maximum possible HP. Everyone but pet player does. I asked XDM to speak with her about raising her health pool. I am told to fudge rolls for her. I bring up that I won't be fair to her random partner to have someone that's squishy. I bring up that it won't, there's some grammar errors in this, be fair to her random partner to have someone that's squishy. They'll be her partner. I stand my ground and show him the monsters I am using. I was not joking. All of them could kill her outright in one attack. Even DM talks with her. Ex-DM talks with her. That player's HP is now on par with everybody else's. Okay, so I am all for making tough encounters, but perhaps OP has maybe overtuned their encounters a little bit here if they are going to potentially one-shot somebody, but also 16 HP is a really low number. Asking the DM to fudge numbers is an odd topic for me. Some people actively think that the DM should not kill or fuck over the PCs, and others think the DM's pulling punches and ruining the story potentially. I'm personally more of the latter. I don't like to fudge my numbers. Not to say I have not had to intervene in an early encounter that almost kills my PCs with, DMX Machina health potion or something like that. But I generally don't like to fudge my dice. I want everything to be very pure. I want the dice to tell stories. Also, my tables usually have people that build pretty damn competently. So the temptation to pull punches and fudge rolls really isn't needed there because I know that they're building decent characters for the most part when it comes to stats and how they like to allocate their points and whatnot. So me, overall, I like when dice tell stories, so I don't fudge my dice. I should have stopped, gave control back to XDM, and just hope Pat and wife let me do something in his version of my birthday one-shot. January comes, Pet is now 19, and her birthday one-shot was a one-for-one, beat-for-beat reskin of mine from last year, right down to her being a royal, us being her best agents, and us dealing with a cult, a change from researchers, trying to do a thing with a dragon. I let it slide. I am the bigger person after all. I changed who I was going to use, fade even more into the background, and let her have her fun. I didn't intend to kill her BBEG, and even apologize for it as her turn was after mine. DM probably could have fudged the health a little bit to allow her to do that. Come March, I have sent XDM the files for Roll20 maps and music I want to use. Sounds like they have a shared server here. His wife has yet to make another PC for the one shot while everyone else has. I touch base with wife and XDM 2 weeks before the game. I need sheets before the game so I can work out something for the final scene. It is very clear she is going to be stubborn and no longer wants to play, as I called her out for playing video games during games. DM's wife finished her sheet a day before the game. She just shouldn't have played. It is not complete, but it is usable. I should have told her she wasn't playing, but I didn't need her drama. So it sucks that this one shot that they participated in for Pet Player here was a reskin, especially because they didn't get to finish it originally because Pet Player was dicking around and being a piece of shit. For one shots, I will usually offer to make PCs for the table if my players don't want to make their own, but they end up getting stuck with what I make for them. If you're playing 5e and not using homebrew, I will say there are some nice generators out there to get character sheets filled out pretty quickly for you. I highly recommend you look them up. I'm not going to list them because they may not be up to date. I haven't used them in a hot minute, but they exist out there and I highly recommend trying them out. The game starts. Everything was going fine. Story was moving smoothly. Everyone made it to the temple and met two of my PCs, a healer and her guard. Okay, I'm going to jump in quickly here. I hope that is a typo and they meant NPCs. I'm personally not a fan of DMPCs and I don't want to go on another tangent about them, so I'm not going to, but back to the story. I will point out the guard has no visible armor or weapons. He is not hostile to the players at all, knows them as fellow students, and trusts them as allies. The healer reaches out and heals them fully for any damage they took getting to the temple. I make a point of pointing out that she winces as she does this, her hands blacken, and then quickly return her normal skin tone. Kind of a cool touch. Between all players, she took a total of 80 points of damage, returning those hit points to everyone. The guard had the power of mimicry. I rolled to see who would mimic. I rolled Pet Player. I figured it would be okay. She likes wacky random things. This will be okay. The guard turned into a perfect copy of her PC, voice, and appearance. Pet Player found it creepy, saying, "You're creepy." The guard backed off with an apology, turning back to himself, and walked back to the healer's side. With a contested dex check to see if he could stop her from XDM, Pet successfully shot the guard in the back, and it would end up being a crit, triggering the consequence event I hoped would not have happened. The healer sent all of the damage she took back to the party, as well as the crit from pet players shot back to her, leaving her with 1 HP as other guards of the healer came from the side of the temple to arrest Pet. Pet got angry and logged off. We finished the BBEG fight despite DM's wife trying to derail the entire battle. Okay, Pet here needs to grow the fuck up. They fucked around and they found out. In situations like this, especially with newer players, they're not a newer player, don't be afraid though to talk it out before they make some rash decisions. In this situation though, I'm surprised OP has not left this table. I'm actually surprised this DM is willing to DM with how Pet player and their wife are acting. It's very immature. I would be very angry if somebody was DMing, especially DMing for their first time, and multiple of the players at the table were acting like complete assholes. Keeping it going though. We all logged off. During the week, everyone but Pet and wife thanked me for the game. Little do I know, XDM spent that week asking everyone about the game and if they want me at the table anymore, citing wife and Pet complaining about me. All week, I think everything went okay. Pet will get over her feelings, and the DM had not checked in to see if I'm okay. Game time comes, we all log on, and I am blindsided with accusations of being a table bully, that I abused power as a DM to punish Pet for playing around, and Pet and wife didn't want me at the table anymore. The other 2 players did want me to stay, but I knew XDM was going to favor his Pet and wife, and I would just be bullied out of the table later anyway. But I had receipts to prove I wasn't the bully, but the victim of Pet and her bullying. Pet would constantly pull stuff with my normal PCs in our games. The 2 games before my one-shot. He had allowed Pet to literally kill my PC in Waterdeep's Dragon Heist because she wanted my body for her necromancy, and it was easier than breaking the mind control. In our main homebrew campaign, despite saying it many times in and out of character, she still broke into my home and stole food from the orphanage I was running. She stole from orphans because it was funny to see me mad, that she has yet to apologize for derailing my birthday one-shot from last year and actually mean it. Pet player is a piece of shit, just straight up. The DM should not be allowing one PC to kill another for necromancy. That is how you make players hostile to one another. It's one thing to joke about when a player dies that the party necromancer is going to do some recycling. It's another to fucking kill a PC. I'm shocked OP has played through not one, but multiple campaigns of this bullshit. Them getting booted because they won't be walked over and hurt Pet's fees is a blessing in disguise. And if we talk about this year's one-shot, I can show exactly where she triggered a consequence. I had the document outlining the one-shot and paths it could take. Shooting the guard. Regardless if she had hit or not, raising her weapon to a non-hostile and attempting to harm them would have resulted in the same. All the damage returned to her to weaken her while the cuffs were applied for her arrest and expulsion. XDM started to backpedal, hearing it was a planned consequence with the same. Her home life is bad. This is a chance for her to do things without consequence. I'm gonna jump right in here. That is not an excuse. Tabletop role-playing games are an escape for many. Whether because they have a bad home life, life is stressful, or you just don't like being a normal human being and you want to be a hero, whatever your reasons. They, being Pet player, do not get to use their shitty home life to be a dick to other players and people. That is bullshit. I don't fully remember what I said in my anger, but I left the table all the same. It wasn't fun anymore. I wasn't going to look past Pet and wife being golden players and getting scraps of time and focus. On a whim, I didn't block anyone from the table to see if anyone would reach out. It was a year later on my next birthday that XDM messaged me using another Darvo apology and tepid, "I was scared you didn't want to talk, so I gave you space" excuse. In that time, I had found 3 new tables and 3 new DMs who gave a damn about their players and respecting their time and agency in the group story. No one else from my former table is blocked. No one else. Not even the players who were okay with me staying have yet to reach out. I wonder if the 2 who were okay with me stayed after I was gone and no one was left to buffer them from wife and Pet's bullshit. So personally, I wouldn't worry too much. They're going to do what they're going to do. Run, do not look back. I'm very glad OP has found some new tables and I hope they are going much better than this previous one. Sometimes when you leave a bad situation, you should just, at least for the people who are your problem players, the people who are causing issues, just block contact with them and then just go onward and just live your life. It's the easiest way to do it. Our next story is from user Nuclear Toaster D&D, titled "Player Tries to Bypass Rolling and Uses Homebrew He Made Up on the Spot." TLDR, Warforged Sorcerer player can't accept his rolls and will at random decide he has the ability to do things we never discussed, often evasive to being told no in-game. Hello, I figured I'd share this semi-horror story with Reddit. It's basically wrapped up and it's one of the more mild cases I've seen, to be frank, but still very annoying. So, have you ever just had that player? You know that one. That dude that can't accept he failed something even when they rolled low. So he just says he should succeed because of his character or his backstory or some other weird flimsy reasoning like that. Yep, that's what this story is about. Possibly the most textbook example, I think. Also, this is a high school D&D group with a lot of new players. That's very important. Cast list, sorcerer, that guy in question here. Players, other players unnecessary in understanding the plot, and then bard guy that doesn't take the game too seriously, and then me, the DM. So to start off this tale, I'll tell you some background from my world. In it, there was a large war hundreds of years ago, which featured a lot of warforged and robots, as well as tech in general. This is the reason for which the Sorcerer's Warforged exists, and he, less magical and more machine-like as a robot, with code and the like. His player introduced him as having access to his own source code and stated this is the reason for his sentience. This will be important later. Another notable thing is that Sorcerer is a pretty new player and a pretty young one too. I'm not entirely sure he knows what he's doing. Is kind of iffy, but it does explain a lot, as I'm sure he thinks in a somewhat DM versus player mentality. I'm going to just go ahead and jump right out of the gate here. I do not like the DM versus player as a mentality. Most systems are not built to have that dynamic, and it is not meant to be competitive, and it leads to a hostile interaction between DM and player. The world idea is very cool, and trying to make a Warforged fit into settings outside of Eberron can often be quite difficult, so I'm glad that this setting allows for Warforged to be a thing. It's very cool. So the first real moment I should have known to just boot him was when he fudged a roll. I wouldn't boot after the first fudging of a roll, but if it continues, obviously things change. We were rolling decks for something and I saw him re-roll a digital dice after getting a 2 or something like that. Since he was new and I didn't want to be too harsh, I just said I saw that and made him fail that roll. He'd soon find new and stranger ways to cheat. This would come in the form of our first mechanical boss, a giant automaton named Thrak with a bunch of weapons on it. He opened up by trying to sneak up on it with gaseous form and hack it. Keep in mind he's a sorcerer. He does not have any technical skills. He has control of his own source code, which he used as an argument that he could do that, but I dictated that as a mostly story-related thing, and out of game asked him to try not to hack bosses like this because I prepared a lot and was hoping for a big boss fight on the player's side. I also cited his mechanical inability to do this and stated we never agreed to have a hacking ability in the game. Okay, so when players are fudging rolls, just talk it out and ask them not to do that. Most players I find won't do that even when they're rolling like shit. I have been there. It sucks when you're rolling like crap. Dice tell stories, and sometimes that story is your PC's about to get fucked on. I like the fact that the player is thinking outside the box here, trying to hack the boss. It's a very cool idea. And as a DM, if it's something you aren't down for, especially if they have a skill for it, just explain, much like OP has done here, that it won't work out that way, and maybe suggest either an alternative they could do instead, or help them rein in whatever their thought process as to why they can do that. What also really bothered me was immediately after the battle, he has to incorporate some of the weapons on Thrak. I was fine with this, but he would have to make a con roll to make sure his body accepted those new parts. After failing his check, he tried to just sort of roll again. I told him that's not how this worked, and then he tried to sort of outplay me. That's the best way I could describe it. Like, he'd say that since he could alter his code, he'd just make it accept it. But I told him that would kill the point of rolling and denied it. After that session, I politely asked that he step back his weird, my backstory means I can hack this boss shenanigans. His response? Something that boiled down to no promises. So I told him that out of game reasons for why I wanted him to listen to his rolls and fight things normally. He said he wouldn't do it again. Sounds like this player needs to leave the table. Sometimes newer players suffer from this weird thing where they think their PC is OP and the best at everything. It sucks, and it's hard to train a new player to realize that they are going to fail at things and they can't do everything. OP is doing a good job of trying to rein this in. OP might need to set this player down, let them know D&D is not a competition and that they need to stop being hostile. This trying to one-up crap gets old very fast. As for an in-lore explanation maybe for why the weaponry won't link up, say it's because that they're built different, and even with the ability to control your code, you cannot physically make something fit onto you or something like that. If you see a player making a backstory that might go a little bit down this path where it gives them the ability to do whatever the fuck they want, essentially, do not be afraid to talk it out with them. Let them know that there will be limitations on what they can do and that you will do your best to work with them to make things work out. And if they're reasonable and not treating this like a competition, this ultimately should be fine. The second real incident where I considered kicking him was the joke session before winter break, where he went to Walmart, or we went to Walmart on Black Friday and had to fight through a crowd of shoppers. The sorcerer started describing as his character was absorbing the blood into his machinery and growing in size and power. I politely tried to tell him he couldn't do this 2 or 3 times, but he just didn't listen. It's like he had my words go in one ear and right out the other. At a certain point, I just decided to ignore what he was saying and just let him rampage to the confusion of everyone at the table. Bad move, I know. Should have just told him to stop more urgently. Eventually, I introduced the boss of that session, Mariah Carey, who was treated more like an eldritch whore than anything else. I asked the sorcerer to make a dex check. On a fail, she shoots an icicle through the massive machinery he'd Katamari, Jesus. Katamari Damashi. He'd Katamari'd around himself by that point and pinned him to the wall. To start, I love the joke session idea. Black Friday Brawl, Eldritch Horror Mariah Carey around wintertime. I love it. This problem player really needs to be sat down and talked to. Let them know, I love you trying to do cool and interesting things, but you need to be more grounded and fair for the other players. In some situations, though, people are going to be unreasonable, see here, and they might just need to find a new table. You might have to kick them, and that is okay. This was my solution to his weird ignoring of me telling him he couldn't do that. His response, though, that he moved all the pieces of the machinery ball closer to him. I told him he had no control of it now and pointed out the whole thing where he doesn't have the ability to do that, and he stopped asking. But what was stranger was his insistence that since he used ice magic, he wanted to absorb the giant icicle he was impaled on. And every turn following trying to absorb it, he tried to fight the boss, which due to low time turned from a boss fight to an escape sequence. Alone, turned to after, hold on. Jesus. At every turn following trying to absorb it, he tried to fight the boss, which due to low time turned it from a boss fight to an escape sequence alone, while pinned to a wall with ice magic. After like 3 turns of this not working and him getting progressively more impaled, he was saved by the rest of the party. He later said that he kept the icicle that stabbed him and wanted to absorb his eldritch powers. This would be a running theme. After the session, I told him again he was not allowed to do that, and we never discussed him being able to absorb machinery or whatever, and he gave me another response which boiled down to no promises. But I insisted and told him that being at Warforged was a flavor thing, and he couldn't just describe his character doing whatever he wanted. He said he wouldn't do this again. Not. There has clearly been multiple times that this player has refused to adhere to the DM's rulings. In this situation, I would sit them down one more time and lay it all out. Let them know that you like their ideas, but things need to be more tied to in-system abilities, features, magic, etc., and that it cannot be just made up on the spot. Let them know that they need to adhere and respect your rulings, or they will no longer be allowed at your table. That they can disagree and make a case in a situation where they think they should be able to do something, but it needs to be tied to this system and features and rules. It cannot be done with whatever bullshit homebrew they want to come up with. If they cannot accept that, they can leave and find a new table. Now, OP mentioned this was a high school D&D group. I don't know if this is a club or something like that. If it is a club, there might be a teacher that can help iron things out. Unless OP in this instance is the teacher, in which case I'm very sorry for you. After this, we'd have another session where we fought the ghost of a bard's prior character, of the bard's prior character in the last campaign, and part of his design was that he had a nucleus at the center of his chest, which dropped when he was defeated. There was a scuttle over who should have the item, and the competition between Sorcerer and another character prompted me to randomize magic items in the future. However, even after getting the item, he didn't even use it. He just tried to absorb its power. I told him that basically wasn't possible because it's the essence of a person, but it went in one ear and right out the other. He has still yet to actually use that magic item, and even after the randomized magic thing, he insists that he should get whatever best magic item popped out of a boss for, quote, story reasons. This player needs to leave the table. Shortly after that session, we had another where the party fought an NPC they took a liking to, and after viscerally disemboweling him with a homebrew spell, he hit me up on Discord for what is possibly the strangest interaction I've ever had with another player. He said he wanted to resurrect the NPC, to which I told him that the body needed to be whole for resurrection. In my world, and after an incident where he tried to incorporate the NPC's power core and destroyed it in the process, as well as the whole ripping it to pieces thing, this NPC was beyond resurrection. His response that he'd use, quote, the anime power, yes, he actually said that in the epilogue session after the story was done, to resurrect him. I was beyond perplexed, so I asked him to specify what that even was, to which he told me since this story didn't matter post-campaign, he should be allowed to BOP and resurrect the NPC afterwards. When I told him I didn't approve, he said something along the lines of, well, and the anime power doesn't care what you think. I was baffled. So I told him that it kind of had to. I was the DM. This is the moment I knew I had to kick him, but by this point, we were like 2 sessions from completing the campaign, so I just decided to write it out. I would argue to not even include that player in the last 2 sessions. They could do a lot of damage in 2 sessions. They clearly want to write fan fiction and not follow rulings, so they can fuck off and write their fan fiction. Finally, the most recent incident involved a session where we did a race, and this saw the most amount of his backstory, La Fiat of the campaign. The string of events which happened was essentially he asked if he could find a Ghost Rider-esque motorcycle. I asked him to roll luck, and when he failed, he found a normal motorcycle, to which he tried to mod and set the bike on fire and ended up destroying it in the process. He was then given a bumper car as a joke, which he then again tried to mod, failed. So now it was literally just a bicycle due to his failed attempt to turn it into a motorcycle. This was destroyed in the race, so he was told by the organizers that they were out of racing vehicles, and they handed him a unicycle. Guess what he did next? Really guess. He asked to modify it and fails. He breaks it and gets last in the race. After the session, he told me there should have been a, quote, biddy system for those who were failing the race. But another player pointed out that he'd caused every failure he had by trying to modify stuff he didn't understand. What I really don't get is why he didn't try to play an artificer. He would have been able to at least do half the things he said he could do. Overall, I'm probably not hosting him again. I don't really like him as a player, but yeah, just a really weird experience. Pity system? Motherfucker, that was 3 separate sets of pity for this race alone. Do not host him again. Ban him from your table. It isn't worth it. You'll just end up babysitting him. Hi guys, a little quick ad break here. I just want to let you guys know I stream on Twitch. Link is down in the description. I would love it if you come check me out. I don't want to keep you guys too long though, so let's jump into that next story. Our last story for the day is from user Skull Dandy, titled When the DM is a Bad Player. This is basically a rant about a player, but if I'm the one wrong, please let me know. This weekend will be the first session of my first ever campaign as the GM. I've played in 7 campaigns and multiple one-shots and short adventures. Most of these were more or less the same group of people, just alternating who was DMing. One member of the group, let's call him John, was the DM for 2 of the longest campaigns, around 2 years IRL for each. I'm just going to jump in. New DM! Welcome! I love when people jump in to try DMing. I am so happy they're doing this. John always had really high expectations for his players and his campaigns. He'd be really upset if someone missed a session. He would expect everyone to prioritize his sessions and his campaign over stuff like work, family events, etc. It was a bit much, and I had a few talks with him about it. But more importantly for this rant, he also was always upset when people wouldn't send him the stuff he asked for on time, like backstories or leveling up decisions, stuff like that. In this case, I always sided with him. Everyone can take 10 minutes out of the day to write a backstory. The asking for stuff in a timely manner, like backstories, level ups, etc., totally can understand. DMs need to plan things out, and having all of the info allows us to prep better sessions for the players. Expecting players, though, to miss work or family events for D&D to me is a big no-no. Not everyone can change things just like that. If it becomes a constant, always talk to your players because maybe they need to not continue in the campaign because life's getting in the way, and that is okay when that happens. Plus, I'm the writer/theater player. You know the one. I write 15-page backstories and give it to the DM weeks in advance. I make sure to include a summary page at the start with just the main points, but send the full 15-page document in case the DM wants to read the details. So in this topic, John never had any complaints about me. Now, onto my turn to DM my first ever campaign. We had a session 0 on the 11th of February where we discussed the themes and atmosphere of the campaign as well as character ideas. I asked for everyone to write a backstory and send it to me until the 30th of March, as our first session would be on the 6th of April, and that would leave me with 1 week to analyze all backstories before the first session. This means more than a month and a half to write a backstory. Today, the 31st of March, one day after the deadline, I ask John if he's still intending to play in the campaign. He says yes. I ask for the backstory. He says he'll send it to me tomorrow, that he's been super busy and hasn't been able to write it. I tell him that session 0 was a month and a half ago, which I thought was enough time. His answer, life isn't just about D&D. That hurt. John's a fucking hypocrite. Just to say, hey, I'm sorry. Shit's been super hectic. I'll get it to you tomorrow. I'm so sorry. Like, don't be like, life's all about no more than just D&D, especially when you're going to be an asshole and be like, you need to get your shit done in a timely manner. I told him that it makes me sad that he won't put as much effort into my campaign as I put into both of his, but that yes, life isn't just about D&D, and he could send the backstory when he had the chance. I guess it goes to show that when it's other people's turn to do something, I guess it goes to show that when it's other people doing something, it's bad player etiquette, but when it's you doing the same thing, it's justified. I'm just surprised he can't see the irony that if he was his own player, he would be fuming at himself. Okay, I'm sorry OP is dealing with all this, especially for their first campaign. I'm just going to say this is not just DM advice, this is just life advice. Try not to be a hypocrite. We're all human. It's going to happen sometimes. But if you're going to be the kind of person to expect your players to do things in a timely manner, then you, as the DM, need to respect your DM when you're the player, when they're asking for things in a timely manner, and be polite when shit happens and it's your fault. Personally, I hope this doesn't end up spelling a bad time for OP's table here, especially because the campaign technically hasn't even fully started yet. But maybe we'll see down the line. Who knows? Alrighty, guys. Thank you guys all for tuning in this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the stories. Please do not forget to like and subscribe and comment down below on what your thoughts were on some of these stories. I love getting to read your comments. I'm working on trying to catch up from last week's video and stuff like that with comments. If you're interested, please do follow me on Twitch and check me out. We are playing through Claire Obscura. We are in Act 3 now of it, and I have been loving that game to death. The music is so good. I cannot wait to put it in my D&D campaigns. But just don't forget to comment down below, like and subscribe, please. I appreciate you all taking the time to tune in. I will see you guys all in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.